Welcome. We are going to speak in this session about collaborative funding, and this is something that we see funders expecting of us more and more as nonprofit leaders and as fundraisers, and it's something that we should be prepared to pursue, and it'll be good for us. So why are so many foundation funders and other funders, but mostly foundation funders, pushing collaborative funding? Well, for one thing, it gives them more bang for their buck, right? They're funding multiple agencies instead of just one. They're coming in and responding to one ask versus many asks. So there's just more bang for the buck. But there's also less duplication, so they are not responding to multiple requests for the same thing. They have the benefit of efficiencies of scale, the partnering nonprofit organizations. They have the benefit of better ideation, having multiple leaders at the table, coming up with bigger and grander ideas. And of course, there is a plethora of expertise and experience that multiple nonprofit leaders will bring when put in a room together, which is fantastic. This is a great proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is an African proverb, and I think it really articulates both the challenges and the advantages of doing collaborative funding and, in our case, collaborative fundraising. Now, funders aren't just asking us to work in partnership and create these complex collaborations just to punish us, right? And they are doing it because it makes us better agencies and it has a greater impact. And to show that they do believe in this, they are doing it themselves. A great example would be the COVID response funding that we saw in 2020 and then continuing on, but mostly in 2020, when we saw multiple foundations gathering together, pooling resources, and supporting their communities directly. The BC for You program was a program in Colorado, and it has been highly successful. It was a collaborative funding effort by multiple agencies, both nonprofits and government agencies, to reduce instances of teen pregnancy. And the results were sort of astounding. I mean, there was national coverage of what a great success this project was. But without this collaborative funding, it wouldn't have been able to continue beyond the first initial funder. Giving circles are something that every nonprofit executive director and development director is aware of at this point. There are so many, and mainly located in community foundations. So they are collaborative funding sources that are pooling individual donors' dollars together, usually around a theme. So it could be social justice, it could be the environment, it could be, animal welfare, women's rights, any number of topical areas. Big Bang Philanthropy is, I just put them in here as an example of large funders. So I think their funders giving, definitely north of $1 million to really address big, complicated problems, kind of like climate change, really, really serious and complex problems that you really can't tackle on your own. What do funders want us to know as nonprofit leaders? Well, they want us to know that they'd like to see bigger ideas. They don't want to see these small ideas that come out of small agencies because we are coming from a place of scarcity, sort of a scarcity mentality. They want to see those juicy, yummy, abundant ideas. They would like us to create those collaborations in advance. So not necessarily putting the onus on the funder to create those collaborations, but coming up with them ourselves. And they want us to know what others are doing. They want us to do our due diligence. I think it's frustrating sometimes for funders when they are meeting with a nonprofit organization and have to constantly be saying, well, have you talked to such and such? They're doing something quite similar. And I think that they would like to see us doing that kind of work on our own. They want to see innovative solutions. They want us to determine the details of the partnership in advance. So don't put that responsibility on them as funders. And what do we want to see? What do we as nonprofit leaders want these funders to know about collaborative funding? Well, we want them to know that collaboration takes time and it requires money, because not only because it takes more time, which does require more money, but it also takes more staff resources, and it takes organizing. It just takes more of everything to have more people in the room doing this great work. And I think that we would like them to know that collaborations need to be homegrown. We need to have a say in who we're partnering with. We know what's best for our communities. These partnerships, they really require honesty, not just between nonprofit partner agencies, which of course requires honesty and sort of direct talk, but also the ability to be direct and honest with the funders about the progress of the collaboration, the success of the collaboration, whether this partnership even works. Having the ability to have a safe space to be honest is incredibly important. And a lot of nonprofits would like to see a signed MOU, especially in the case where you're working with if you're a smaller nonprofit and you're working with kind of an anchor partner. So maybe a university or a hospital, somebody with a lot more power, a lot more money. You want to be able to make sure that your agency is represented well in this partnership and isn't taken advantage of. I thought I would share some examples of mutually beneficial nonprofit collaborations. There's one that comes to mind, and it really is such a glowing example of what two very different agencies working together can accomplish. Iowa State University's Department of Landscape Architecture went into a partnership with the Iowa Correctional Institution for Women, which, of course, these seem like very, diverse and not intuitive partners, but the partnership they have created has lasted for years now. And what this partnership is an opportunity for both the students in the landscape architecture school at ISU to enjoy their practicum on site at this women's prison. They are able to design areas. They created a peaceful garden that prisoners who were feeling agitated could go for quiet space and time alone. They created a garden that this picture certainly does not do it justice, but a garden that, one could argue is almost a farm. And this produce garden in its first year was able to produce as much as $60,000 worth of food for the ICIW community and their kitchen in the first year. They worked with the kitchen staff early on to determine which vegetables and herbs they wanted to plant in order to help feed the more than 650 women at the prison. And this is an ongoing partnership, and it's just a great example of everyone is getting something out of this. The prisoners, they talk about how a lot of these women now are interested in ag and might pursue that as a career once they get out of prison. And meanwhile, these students are getting this once in a lifetime practicum experience. And both agencies are winning. Another example of a mutually beneficial collaboration that I think is super cool. My history is a little bit in arts and culture, so I find this really fun. The Kansas City Zoo and the Nelson Atkins Museum did a collaboration where they brought penguins from the zoo into the Nelson Atkins Museum. I'm sure that this is in large part a nice PR plug during COVID, when both institutions were very likely not seeing very many visitors, but it worked, and it was really exciting and fun. And there's a nice video online that you should look up on YouTube of this cool collaboration. A great example of a for-profit and nonprofit partnership that I think is just spectacular was this Airbnb and the Louvre partnered up in, I think it was 2020, for the 30th anniversary of I Am Pei's beautiful pyramid, which is, as you know, is part of the Louvre. And they created this little mini pyramid inside of it, and this awesome contest that celebrated the 30th anniversary by putting this little pyramid inside, and this contest in which a person like you or like me could sign up to try to get a night at the museum. And just imagine, I mean, is there any museum that could be so spectacular to spend the night? And this is literally what the room looked like. You hear a lot about collective impact, and I know it feels a lot like, I don't know, like sort of nonprofit jargon and gobbledygook, but it is actually a real framework. So when we talk about collective impact, what we're talking about is an actual framework. And this is what the framework consists of, is these 5 elements. Organizations partnering together with a common agenda, shared measurement, so having the same sort of vision for what the impact and evaluation will look like, mutually reinforced activities, continuous communication, and backbone support. And what they mean by backbone support is that there is an agency, usually one that is stood up for this purpose, either as a program or an actual new agency, so that there is accountability for the collective impact project. So I hope that you will think to yourself and go back to your executive director. If you're a development director, go back to your board. If you are an executive director, or in your staff and team, and talk through what projects your organization could do in partnership with another nonprofit or for-profit for that matter. And what opportunities would appeal to both partners equally. That's really important, that each partner gets enough out of this for it to be a worthwhile endeavor. And which organizations would share this vision with you? Which ones are excited to try to bite off a nice, juicy project like this? And what foundations could you pitch with the idea? I mean, I think for me as a fundraiser, that's always the most exciting idea is how could I sell something bigger and better than what I've sold before? And what would be the ultimate impact of this shared vision that you would have with another organization? And I wanted to just share this one last thought on collaborations. Life is so much better with these, and I truly believe it. I mean, there is no Islands in the Stream without Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers together. There just isn't. And you don't get this little gem without having Aerosmith and Run DMC together. You don't get Rihanna and Eminem. You only get one or the other. That's just simply not enough. The Traveling Wilburys, I mean, seriously, how many people are in that collaboration? Who even knows? And these 2 rock stars, Basquiat and Warhol, better together than apart. And so I invite you to participate in collaborative funding and collaborative fundraising, because I think it's a win for all of us. Thank you.